Well, look who decided to show up. The person everyone's been whispering about in corners, stalking on social media, and losing sleep over. Yeah, you. The one they thought they broke. The one they swore would never bounce back. The one they left behind like yesterday's trash, convinced you'd stay down forever. Except here you are, standing taller than ever, and it's absolutely destroying them. Before we go any further, if you're feeling this energy right now, hit that subscribe button, because what I'm about to tell you is exactly what you need to hear today. Drop a comment below and tell me, who's watching you now that ignored you before? Let's build a community of people who chose themselves and never looked back. I need you to understand what's really happening right now. While you were busy rebuilding yourself from the ground up, doing the hard work nobody sees, facing your demons in the middle of the night, they were watching. Oh, they've been watching the whole time. Checking your profiles like it's their morning ritual. Clicking on your stories, even though they unfollowed you. Asking mutual friends about you with that fake casual tone. Oh, I was just wondering how they're doing. They seem different. Different. That's the word they keep using because they don't have the vocabulary to describe what you've become. They can't say better because that would mean admitting they held you back. They can't say stronger because that would mean acknowledging their toxicity made you weak. They can't say happier because that would shatter their entire narrative that you needed them to be complete. So they say different and hope that covers the existential crisis you're causing them just by existing. Here's what's actually going on behind those screens, behind those carefully worded texts to people who barely know your middle name. They're spiraling, complete meltdown mode, because you did something they never expected. You didn't just survive the aftermath of them leaving. You evolved. You metamorphosed into something they don't recognize, something they can't categorize, something that doesn't need their validation to exist. They thought your silence was weakness. They interpreted your disappearance as defeat. They convinced each other that you were somewhere crying over them, desperately trying to put the pieces back together, waiting for the day they'd grace you with their presence again. But that's not what happened, is it? You went quiet because you were done performing, done explaining, done justifying your existence to people who never valued it in the first place. You didn't owe them a goodbye. You didn't owe them closure. You didn't owe them an explanation for choosing yourself. So you just vanished. Like a ghost in the machine, you slipped away while they were busy congratulating themselves for cutting you off. And in that silence, in that beautiful, terrifying silence, you did something radical. You met yourself, the real you, not the watered-down version you presented to keep the peace, not the people-pleasing puppet who bent over backwards for scraps of approval, not the accommodating, understanding, always available person who sacrificed their own needs to make others comfortable. You met the you that existed before the world told you to be smaller, quieter, more digestible. And that meeting, that reunion with your authentic self, changed everything. Now they're seeing the results and their minds can't process it. You're not posting sad quotes. You're not subtweeting about betrayal. You're not throwing shade or seeking revenge. You're just there, existing with this unsettling calm, this maddening peace, this infuriating confidence that suggests you know something they don't. And you do. You know that their opinions were never facts. You know that their presence in your life was optional, not essential. You know that the person they tried to diminish was actually the person they could never become. You know that every single moment they made you feel inadequate was actually them projecting their own insecurities onto you. That knowledge, that clarity, it's radiating from you now. and they can feel it even through a screen. Let me tell you what's really behind those questions they keep asking. Are they okay? Isn't about concern. It's about fear. Fear that you're better without them. Fear that they weren't as important as they thought. Fear that they're about to witness you winning the game they swore you'd lose. They need you to be struggling. They need you to be bitter. They need you to be stuck in the past, obsessing over what went wrong, replaying conversations, wondering what you could have done differently. Because if you're not doing any of that, if you're actually thriving, actually at peace, actually grateful they left, then what does that say about their significance in your life? It says they were a lesson, not a loss. A chapter, not the whole story. A detour, not a destination. And that truth is unbearable for people who measure their worth by how much others need them. Here's where it gets absolutely poetic. They're not just asking about you, they're investigating you. Analyzing your every move like amateur detectives. Did you see their new post? Why are they so calm? What are they up to? They're acting like nothing happened. Exactly. You're acting like nothing happened because, in the grand scheme of your life, their departure was just another plot point. Not the climax, not the tragedy. Just a moment that redirected you towards something better. You're not faking this energy. You're not putting on a brave face. You're not pretending to be okay. You are okay. Actually, you're better than okay. You're free. Free from their judgment. Free from their limitations. Free from the exhausting performance of trying to be enough for people who were determined to find you lacking. That freedom is what they're sensing, and it's terrifying them because free people can't be controlled, manipulated, or guilt-tripped. Free people don't respond to bait, don't engage in drama, don't explain themselves to people who are committed to misunderstanding them. Free people just exist in their truth and let others interpret it however they need to. Now let's talk about what really changed. Because they keep asking that question like there was some dramatic event, some catalyst, some specific moment that transformed you. But the truth is simpler and more powerful than they can imagine. You stopped pretending. That's it. That's the whole story. You stopped pretending their behavior was acceptable. Stopped pretending their treatment of you was normal. Stopped pretending you didn't deserve better. Stopped pretending you were happy in spaces that made you miserable. Stopped pretending you needed people who repeatedly showed you they didn't need you. You stopped carrying people who never intended to carry you back. Stopped being the therapist, the motivator, the forever understanding friend who absorbed everyone's problems but had nowhere to release your own. Stopped being the giver in relationships where everyone else was taking. And when you finally put down that weight, all those one-sided relationships, all those fake connections, all those people who loved what you could do for them, but never loved who you were. That's when you started rising. Because here's the secret they don't want you to know. You were always capable of this greatness. You were always this strong, this magnetic, this powerful. You were just using all your energy to hold up people who were dragging you down. The moment you released them, you ascended. They're watching this ascension in real time, and it's breaking their brains because you're not following the script they wrote for you. You were supposed to beg them to come back. You were supposed to post cryptic messages hoping they'd see them. You were supposed to make them feel important by showing them how much their absence hurt. But you didn't do any of that. You just moved on. Not to spite them, not to prove a point. You moved on because staying would have meant betraying yourself, and you finally loved yourself too much to do that. That's the part that's haunting them. You chose yourself, without hesitation, without guilt, without looking back to see if they noticed. Let me paint you a picture of what's happening in their world right now. They're refreshing your page obsessively while pretending they don't care. They're bringing you up in conversations you're not part of. They're creating elaborate theories about your transformation. Maybe they're faking it. Maybe they're trying to make us jealous. Maybe they're going through something and putting on a show. No theories needed. The explanation is devastatingly simple. You're happy, you're healed, you're whole, and you got there without them. That's not a show. That's not a phase. That's not a temporary mask that will crack under pressure. This is you, the real you. The you that was buried under years of shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that were too small for your spirit. Here's what they'll never understand. Real transformation doesn't need an audience. It doesn't need validation or witnesses or approval. It happens in the dark, in the quiet, in those moments when you're alone with your thoughts and you choose growth over comfort, truth over familiarity, yourself over settling. They're looking for external signs of your change because they don't understand internal revolution. They're analyzing your captions and your pictures because they've never experienced the kind of deep, foundational shift that happens when you finally stop abandoning yourself for other people. You changed at a cellular level. You rewired your brain. You reprogrammed your responses. You rebuilt your sense of self from the ground up. And now you're operating from a completely different frequency than the one they're tuned into. That's why they can't figure you out. That's why they can't predict your moves. That's why every theory they create about you falls apart. They're using old maps to navigate a new you, and nothing lines up. So they're stuck in this purgatory, where they can observe you but not touch you, see you but not reach you, watch you but not affect you. They're spectators to a life they used to have access to, and that distance, that unbridgeable gap they created, is slowly killing them. Because they're realizing something devastating. You didn't just move on from them, you moved UP from them. You didn't just heal, you upgraded. You didn't just survive. You thrived in ways they'll never achieve because they're still operating from the same toxic patterns that drove you away. Every time they ask someone about you, they're admitting they're not over you. Every time they check your page, they're confessing you still matter. Every time they wonder what changed, they're acknowledging you're no longer the person they thought they could control. And that loss of control, that shift in power dynamics, it's eating them alive. Here's what's going to happen next. They're going to keep watching, keep wondering, keep trying to piece together your story like it's a puzzle they're entitled to solve. And every single time they do, they're giving you power. They're making you the main character of their mental narrative while you're not even thinking about them. That's the ultimate victory. Not revenge, not bitterness, just indifference. Just moving through your life so completely focused on your own growth that they become background noise. A footnote, a vague memory of a time when you didn't know your worth. You're not trying to make them regret losing you. Your existence is doing that automatically. You're not trying to prove you're better off. Your peace speaks louder than words ever could. You're not trying to show them what they're missing. Living your best life does that without effort. They're asking what happened to them. And the answer is beautiful in its simplicity. Nothing happened to you. Everything happened for you. Every betrayal was redirection. Every disappointment was protection. Every person who walked away was clearing space for people who would stay. You're not a victim of your past. You're a product of your perseverance. You're not defined by who left. You're defined by how you rebuilt yourself after they did. That's what they're seeing now. Someone who was supposed to be broken, standing taller than ever. Someone who was supposed to need them, thriving in their absence. Someone who was supposed to come back, never looking back. Let them keep texting. Let them keep asking. Let them keep wondering. Every question is an admission that they're not over you. Every inquiry is a confession that maybe, just maybe, they made a mistake they'll regret forever. But here's the thing. You don't need that confession. You don't need their apology. You don't need them to acknowledge what they lost. Because you've already moved into a version of your life where their opinion is irrelevant, their validation is unnecessary, and their presence is unwelcome. You're not leaving the door open. You're not holding space. You're not wondering if they'll change. You're building a life so full, so aligned, so authentically yours, that there's no room for people who didn't believe in you when belief was all you needed. That's your power. That's your peace. Not needing them to understand. Not waiting for them to see. Not requiring anything from them at all. You found everything you needed within yourself. And that's the lesson they'll spend years trying to learn while watching you from a distance, wondering how someone they dismissed became someone they can't stop thinking about. You're unstoppable now, not because nothing can hurt you, but because you've learned that pain is temporary and your power is permanent. Not because you're perfect, but because you're committed to growth even when it's uncomfortable. Not because you have all the answers, but because you trust yourself to figure it out. You became the version of yourself they never gave you permission to be. And now they have to live with the consequences of underestimating someone who was always meant to rise. So let them watch. Let them wonder. Let them whisper. While they're stuck trying to understand your transformation, you're already 3 chapters ahead, writing a story they're not invited to read. That's the power of choosing yourself. That's the victory of walking away. That's the beauty of becoming unbreakable. Welcome back, indeed, to the version of yourself you were always meant to be.